let's move on to CJ Stroud and the potential of the offense. So yeah, listen, man. I don't know if we this is kind of a reminder of how important a last impression is to the public opinion, right? Because before the Rose Bowl, there was a certain narrative. Oh, Ohio State is soft and they got beat up by Michigan and whatever, blah, 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 right? And even though that Rose Bowl game was sloppy to start out with and looked very similar to stuff we were doing early in the season, I give them boys credit for manning up. Utah is not soft. No one can say they're soft. So let's just get that out the way. In the second half, especially, we bowed up and showed that we could stop the run and be physical, right? So there's that. But offensively, that was spectacular. The whole nation saw that game, and the narrative quickly changed, and we're starting to see the fruits of that. Now, you can say, hey, you got to go prove it on the field. Absolutely. But the narrative going into a season and the momentum and the excitement and all that stuff, to me, it matters, at least to an extent, as far as, not just expectations, but just everything, man. Like, if we would have lost that game, I don't think the juice would be the same going into this offseason. Now, we would be hungry, but the juice wouldn't be the same. That Rose Bowl performance of that offense was ridiculous, and people just kind of just brushed to the side that we didn't have the services of Olave and Garrett Wilson, right? Now people say, well, you had JSN, Jackson Smith, and yeah, we did, but he had to step up in a new role of being the number one guy, right? Even he had to do that. So we just can't take for granted that, it was a given. It wasn't a given. They stepped up and they showed out. Marvin Harrison, a true freshman, was playing like a not fifth year senior, because that means you're not that good, a third-year player with a first-round grade. Like, you know what I mean? So, and Egbuka played well. He returned kicks like he normally does well and made some good catches. That offense, along with CJ Stroud throwing some dimes, yes, there was some plays that was wide open, easy pitch and catch. I get that. But you cannot tell me that CJ Stroud did not make some NFL throws in that game, especially that back shoulder throw to Jackson Smith and Jigma in the second half. That was absolutely insane. So let me take a break and look at these comments. How many yards do you think JSN goes for this year? Ooh. I don't know, man. With teams keying in on him, it may not matter because I don't see Harrison is going to be. Man, our receivers are just stupid. And Henderson is going to be even better this year. And real quick, Henderson, I think one of my beloved followers, I love you, no shade, but we were kind of debating about Henderson's development. Obviously, I love Henderson. He had a great freshman year. But if you're going to critique something, I was critiquing his vision. His vision wasn't bad. He had good vision as a freshman. But compared to like a Maurice Claret, he had elite vision out the gate. Henderson, I expect him to make another leap with his vision this year, which is going to make him unstoppable. There were holes that he missed last year that could have been touchdowns or 50-yard gains. I'm nitpicking because he had a great season, but I'm saying if you're going to evaluate, that was his issue, in my opinion. So he's going to be better. It's going to be pick your poison like crazy. So with that said, I think Jackson Smith and Jigma, I would say maybe 12 to 1,500 yards. There you go. Personally don't mind Stroud not running. Shouldn't need to with our running back room. Oh boy, here we go with the Stroud running. I'm not knocking you, Dustin, but I'm just laughing at people. It was like they kept moving the goalposts last year on Stroud. If it wasn't one thing, it was, now he doesn't run enough. Fleming made and break season. Yeah, making break season. Yeah, I'm praying Fleming stays healthy too. And he at least plays himself into a draft pick because he's a freak athlete too when healthy. But as far as CJ goes with the running, I'll just touch on that real quick. it's funny as a Buckeye uh, as a fan base, I should say. Listen, I've been a fan all my life, so I done seen it and heard it. I've been in the trenches. I've been in all the circles. I've been hearing all the narratives for a long time. And it used to be that our quarterbacks would get, knocked for running too much and not keeping their eyes downfield. But now we got a projected number one pick in the draft quarterback, elite passer, who, when he's scrambling, is constantly looking downfield and has delivered when doing that often, but he gets knocked for not running it enough. Now, listen, can we nitpick and say, oh, he could have ran right there and picked up 10 yards? Sure, we could probably do that with Tom Brady or whoever. But you can't have it both ways. It's like his biggest threat is his arm. He can run a little bit. He ran for 40 yards for a touchdown against Michigan State a couple years ago. But he's not Braxton Miller either. So it's like, if this dude is deadly accurate and can throw on the run, I want to see him looking downfield more so than trying to tuck in and run so quickly. Are there going to be times where he can tuck in and run and pick up the yards? Yes. And I believe, and with his maturity, he will be able to discern when that moment will be more and more with experience. But with that said, the whole he don't run thing enough was just way over the top. So, and with CJ Stroud, getting back to him, it's just funny. I'm gonna get back to it, man. I'm gonna have to say it, man. Listen, this is not a "I told you so." Not really. It's more of a learn your lesson. Okay. And what I mean is, I'm not saying me and others like me had a crystal ball, so to speak, but we saw the talent and using basic logic and reason and just understanding of how things work, especially in the game of football, and a young athlete, a young quarterback with no experience, that requires some perspective of patience. Of okay, this every quarterback on our roster is going to be making their first pass in a college football game, right? So you should already have a built-in understanding and expectation based off that alone, right? But the problem is fans gonna fan, and fans got their own agendas, their own thoughts, their own guy, Kyle McCord or whoever. Like, that's my guy. I want to get him out of there. I want my guy in. But Ryan Day is a QB whisperer for a reason. He sees them in practice every day, right? Now we saw how things unfolded. Our defense was very, very bad. And we were all hoping and expecting our defense to be at least solid, but they weren't. They were pretty bad. And so that puts more pressure on your offense and your young first-year starting QB, who threw for almost 500 yards against our first loss against Oregon, but got blamed by a lot of fans for that loss. Now he's coming off of a Heisman invite, and is the projected, just looked at, I forget what site it was, FanDuel or something. He's the projected odds favorite to win the Heisman this year. And some sites have him going as a number one pick overall. See how quickly things change? But some fans are just so impatient and have their own agenda without really thinking things through logically and reasonably, that they're so quick to jump the gun. And it's just like, let that be a lesson, man. Just let it be a lesson. That's all I'm saying. Because some of y'all was way too harsh. Some of y'all was just absolutely just ridiculous with some of your takes. And you were still digging your heels in after he showed that he was the starter. Y'all know who y'all are. But with that said, now we got us one, right? We got us a dog. And I saw that skill and that talent in him early on. And I still like Kyle McCord. I still like our quarterbacks. But he's the better quarterback, clearly, and he showed it. So with that said, we are getting so much love from around the nation about CJ Stroud on offense. I'm just talking to SEC fans, just non-Big Ten fans, some of the buddies and circles I run in. yo, it's immediate respect this offseason. Like, yo, y'all's offense is crazy. It's off of watching the Rose Bowl. That game flipped the narrative, something crazy, y'all, as far as expectations and respect. And now people's like, listen, they hired Jim Knowles, who some people early on didn't like to hire. Like, well, he's from the Big 12. But the Big 12 is an offensive league, and he was what, the number 2 overall defense in the country. And I think they were like number 1 in not interceptions, but sacks. Actually, they were high interceptions too. They had one of the best defenses in the country with a bunch of 3-star players in an offensive league. But yeah, people try to knock that as if that's a bad thing. So to me, and let's go ahead and transition into the next thing. I think that's a good segue, which was the defense and the expectations. Before I do, let me check out the comments. Dustin, bro, some fans are just never happy. I hated the way some talked about this kid last year. Yeah, bro, it was ridiculous. And some of the Buckeye groups, ridiculous. Some of the stuff. And I got screenshots in my phone. Like, just flat out, just some of them just evil. You know what I mean? And it just made me think, like, man, what's really in your heart? You know what I mean? Like, what's really going on, man? Like, because some people, you just got some people who just whatever, man. But Derek, I'm guilty of doubting Stroud. Yeah, fans used to Urban Meyer days do it through QBs. Probably everybody had to figure it out. Going back to pro style, giving these guys chances to be sought out harder. NFL guy. I love it. Stroud's ability to just throw dimes on the receivers. Yeah, Derek. Yeah, and that's the other thing. To be fair, the shifting of the mindset from what we were used to for years with the Terrell Pryors and the Braxtons, like, and even the JT Barretts, we're used to that for years, but it's a shift now. We are becoming QBU. Like, we're probably going to get this kid from Arizona. What's his name? Crap. Somebody put it in the chat. The kid, the 5-star, the number 1 overall player. His name escapes me right now. But we're probably going to get him. And he's the number 1 overall QB in the country. They just keep lining up. It's a shift. So we have to shift our mindset and expectations for our quarterbacks. So, concerns about O-line depth. Wanted to look to the portal. Took words right out of my mouth. Number 1 offense plus great defense. Thank you, Aaron. Dylan Riola. That's his name. I'm still getting to know that kid. He's kind of came on the scene in the past few months. But yeah. Absolutely. As far as O-line depth, I know Ryan Day was very vocal about that. And some of these kids behind the starting 5 just got to develop. They just got to develop. They got to step up this offseason. They got to work on their technique. And speaking of that, let me address this. Paris Johnson. I know there was some critique about him from the spring game. Jack Sawyer beat him up a little bit and kind of schooled him a little bit. I'm not going to panic on that. Number 1, Jack Sawyer is a 5-star defensive end. Paris Johnson is shifting back to playing tackle in college. Last time he's played tackle was in high school, right? It's a lot different getting adjusted to being on the edge and isolated against a 5-star werewolf like Jack Sawyer. So is there concern with what we saw? Sure. You're like, dang, he got beat pretty bad on some of those plays. But he also did well on some of those plays as well. But he has time to look at that film and work on his footwork and his technique and keep, I'm not an O-lineman. I'm a receiver, DB guy. That's what I played. But I'm just saying there's some basic things that you can see he needs to work on. And he will. I mean, he's still projected. I was looking at the mock draft, and he's like a top 5 draft pick, according to one of the sites. So I'm not going to freak out about that. But yeah, some of these guys behind the offensive line, behind the starters, need to step up and provide that depth.